Hello and welcome to the 24th video in the PHP e-commerce series. My name is Curtis and this is Free Skills. So we're going to finish the user registration part in this video. So let's go ahead and I'll just log in and go to our users. We don't have anything on the page yet. We do have our logged in check and our make sure you have permission of admin. But I'm going to get rid of this users that we temporarily put there, and let's just get started with our normal H2 tags here, and then we'll do our HR. By the way, it's very late and I'm very tired, so just hang in there and we'll get through this. I'm just going to put users here. Okay, underneath that we're just going to do our table, and we're going to say we're going to give it a class equal to table bordered, table striped, and table condensed. Okay. Okay, so inside of our table we need our head and our body. Okay. So in our head we need some head elements here. So let's just go ahead and copy this 6 times. And the second one, I'm going to put, I'm just going to put name, and then we'll do email, then we're going to do join date, and we'll do last login, and we're going to put permissions. Okay. So in our body, we're going to do a row, and inside of that row we're going to put 6 table data elements here. Oops. Okay. Alright, so we need to grab our user information from our database. So let's go ahead and run a query here. Call it user query. Make that equal to db query. And our query will just be select all from users where nowhere. So just select all from users, and then we'll do order by full name. Okay. So then here in our body we're going to do the we're going to use a PHP while loop. Okay, and at the bottom we'll end that after the row, so we'll do PHP end while. Okay, and we'll go ahead and indent this whole row just to clean up our code a little bit. Alright, so inside of our while loop we're going to set our user equal to MySQLi fetch associative array, and we're going to pass in our user query. Okay, so now we have this user available to us for each loop, and for the name we're just going to echo user, and then we'll do full name. We'll do the same, we'll just copy this PHP echo. We'll do the same thing here for email. Okay, and we'll also do the same thing for permissions. Okay, we're going to do something a little bit different for our dates. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, let's check this. Let's go to refresh our users page. And we just have one user in our database right now, and you can see that these are all working. We just need to add join date and last login, and we'll need to add a delete button here. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to our helpers file. So I'm in my helpers.php, and we're just going to add a new function. And basically all this function is going to do is format our dates to a more pretty version than what's in our database. So I'm just going to call this pretty date, and we're going to pass it in one parameter, and that's just going to be our date. And then it's a really simple function. We're just going to return date. Now that this date takes it's a PHP function, pre-built function, and it takes two parameters. Well, it takes at least one, but we're going to pass it two parameters. So the first parameter is the format that you want the date displayed in. So we're going to do capital M, which will give us the month abbreviated. We're going to do a space, and then we're going to put we're going to do our day, lowercase d, and then we're going to do a comma, and then space, capital Y. Okay, and we'll do a space, and we'll say lowercase h for a 12 o'clock hour, and then we'll do colon I for minutes. We don't need to put seconds here, so instead of seconds, we're just going to do we'll do space capital A, and that'll give us the AM PM. Okay, so back here now, inside of right here, we're going to echo out pretty date. Okay, I'll go ahead and close that. Now what we're going to pass in is, hold on one second, go back to the helpers file here. I forgot the second parameter. The second parameter here is just string to time and then date. Alright, so now that function's done. So this date is going to go into this function here called string to time to make sure it's actually turned into a date, and then this parameter will be outputted in this format. Okay, so what we need to pass in here is the user join underscore date. That's what we called it in our database. We'll have a look at the database real quick, and we can see here that we got join date and last login for our two date fields. Okay, so let's go ahead and copy this whole thing here, put it in our next date, and the only thing we're going to have to change here is last login. Let's log in. Okay, so now you can see that we have these dates printed out like this. Let's go ahead and add one more user to our database. We're not going to keep this user, but we wanted to finish up our delete functions. So I'm just going to say test testerson, and for email we'll just do test@gmail.com. Just give it a plain text password. We're not going to keep it anyway. And then we'll do a date here. And for permissions, I'm just going to give it an editor permission, so it's not going to have admin. Alright, so now if I browse, you can see we have two users. If I refresh here, the second user is in our database now. So what I want to do is add a delete button here, and we don't want the delete to happen. We don't want to be able to delete ourselves. So we only want to have that delete button if the user isn't us. And so we can just do, for this one here, I'm going to give us a little bit of room, and I'm going to open up PHP. We'll do it if, oops, okay, and then I'm going to go down a few lines. I'm going to say end if. Okay, so right here in this if statement, we're just going to say if user ID does not equal, and then remember we have this user data array built for us inside of our init file, so I can pass it ID. Now this user data is the person who's logged in. So if this ID does not equal the ID of the user that's in the loop at the time, it's going to do what's in here, and what's in here is just going to be our link to delete. So we're going to say users.php, and we're going to give it, pass it a get variable, and we're just going to say delete equals, and then do PHP echo right here, and we're going to say user ID. Okay, that's the link, or the URL that we're going to pass there, and then we're going to give this a class equal to button button default and button extra small. Okay, close our anchor tag there, and then we're going to do some span tags. Okay, and this span tags, we're just going to give it a class equal to glyphicon, and then glyphicon dash remove dash sign. Okay, so let's take a look at this now. If I refresh the page, I got something wrong there. Oh, there's an M there instead of an N again. So let's see if that works now. Alright, so here's our delete button, and it's only on this test because we are this user, so we don't want to be able to delete ourselves. We don't want to give the ability to delete ourselves. Alright, so let's see. So the other thing that I need to do is we're going to add up here before our HR tag, we're going to add another link. I'm going to say href equals, and we're going to do add, we're going to do users.php. This time we'll give it a variable, and we'll say add equals 1. Okay, and we'll give it a class equal to button button success, and then so that we can use our same styles from earlier, we're just going to do add product button. I know we're not using add product, but in our main.css we have this add product button right here, and that just sets our margin, and so that's why I did this right here. This okay, so for our text we're just going to say add new user. Let's take a look at that really quick. Okay, in the class here we need to add pull right. That's a bootstrap for floating this element to the right. And you can see it's not working correctly, so these underscores are actually supposed to be dashes. There we go. So now we have this add new user, and then we have this functionality here. So let's go ahead and create the functionality to delete users. And so right up here, we'll do it above our user query. We can say if is set wrong button. If is set $_get delete. Okay, if that's set, then all we have to do is grab that ID. So we're going to say delete ID is equal to, and we'll sanitize this because we want to avoid any kind of problems. So we'll grab $_get delete. Alright, so now we have the ID, so then all we have to do is run our database query. Okay, and we're going to say this database query, all we have to say is delete from users where ID is equal to, and then we're going to pass it that delete ID. So it's going to delete the user where the ID is equal to this delete ID. Okay. Then what we want to do after we run that query is we're going to set our set our session here, and we're going to set that to success_flash. Alright, we'll make that equal to user has been deleted. Okay, and then the last thing we want to do is redirect the user. We want to redirect the user to users.php. So see if that works now. If I refresh the page, which I didn't really need to refresh the page, but if I click this, you can see the user has been deleted from the database, and then we added this flash message that says user has been deleted, and they no longer show up here. So now we just need to hash out this add new user. So what we're going to do here now is, outside of this if statement, we're going to do another if, and we're going to say if, oh my god, if I could type, if is set, and I cannot type tonight. So if is set $_get, and we're checking this time for add. Okay. So if that's set, we're going to do a bunch of stuff. Else, we're going to do the rest of this, table. So I'm going to go down here right before this include, and I'm going to close that. So what it's going to do is going to do everything that's in this block that we're going to add. If add is a get variable, if that's not set, then it's going to show us our tables. Okay. So let's see what that looks like without doing anything else. So if I refresh the page now, we see our table. If I hit add new user, we see nothing because we haven't put anything in this block here. So the first thing I want to do here is I'm going to actually get out of PHP, and then we'll get back in here. That way we have a little bit of room. And what I'm going to do here is we're going to do our typical H2, give it a class equal to text center, and then close that, and then we'll do an HR. Okay, and in here we're going to say add a new user. Okay, now we're going to use a form. Okay, big surprise there. We're going to set the action equal to users.php, and then we need to pass it the add equals 1 as well, so that it stays in this block. We're going to set the method equal to post. Alright, so that's that. Give myself a few lines here, and we'll start out with our div. We'll give this div a class equal to a form group. Okay, and then we'll do a label we'll do for name. We'll say full name. Okay, and then we'll do an input. And for the input type, that's going to be text. And then name is just going to equal name. ID will equal name as well. Class, we're going to do form control. And value, we're going to set that equal to, we're going to echo out with PHP just name. Okay. And that's it. So we'll close that. I'm going to go ahead and copy this whole div for our next section. And this next section is going to be email. Okay, we'll say email. For type here, we're going to say email. Email, you guessed it. Email, and then we'll pass it email here. Alright, so we've done email. Go ahead and copy that again. And this time, we're going to say password. Password, name will be password ID, and then we'll give it a password right there. Alright, so just continue on. We'll paste that again. This time we're going to call this confirm. Then we're going to, for the label, we'll say confirm password. For type, we're going to say password, and then for name and ID, we're going to call it is confirm. And then for value here, we're just going to give that confirm. Alright, so moving right along here, we don't need to tell it the dates, obviously, because the dates are set to default, so that's okay. What I want to do here for this is going to be permissions. Okay, now permissions isn't going to use an input, so we can get rid of that. It's going to use a select. Okay, and the select will also have a class of form control. Okay, go down a few lines, give myself some space, and then for options, the first one is just going to have a value equal to a blank string, and then we're just going to leave it a blank string. And right here we can do a ternary operator, and we could say okay, so if permissions if that equals a blank string, then we're going to echo selected, and it's a space selected. Otherwise, we're just going to we're going to echo a blank string. Alright, so we can actually copy this 2 more times for me, and then I'm going to put the first one as just editor as a value, and then permissions needs to equal editor here, and then inside of our option we're just gonna say editor. Now for the next one, we're gonna say admin, comma, editor, because we're kind of building a group here, So this needs to equal admin, comma, editor. And then right here, I'm just going to call this admin. So they're going to be able to select from an editor or an admin for my application, and that'll set them up as either just editor or admin and editor privileges. Okay? Now, the next thing that we need is one more div here. We'll give it a class equal to form group. Okay? And then we're going to put two buttons here. We're just going to say give this one users.php class equals button button default. Okay, and we're just going to say cancel. So that'll take us back to the users page. And then here we're going to do an input, and we'll do type equals submit, value equals save, or we'll just say add user, and we'll do class equals to button, let's do primary. Okay. Let's take a look at this. We're going to have undefined variables, and that's fine. So we're going to take care of these undefined variables, and then we're going to do a little bit more styling on this to make it look a little nicer. So right here, where it says if is set get add, inside of that PHP block there before it breaks out, we need to set all these variables. And so we'll start with name, and that's going to be equal, we'll set that up with a ternary operator. So this is if is set $_post name. Then if that's set, then we're going to set that equal to sanitize $_post name. Okay. If not, it's going to be equal blank string. So we can take this whole thing now, and we can pretty much copy it for each one. So here, wherever it says name, I'm going to change that to email. Okay, we'll copy that again, and again I'm going to change everywhere it says name, this time to password. Okay, and then copy it again. This time we're going to say confirm. Copy it again. A lot of repetition. We're going to say permissions with 2 S's and another one at the end. Alright. So let's see if that gets rid of our. Okay. So that gets rid of our undefined variables. So it's going to make it look a little prettier. All we're going to have to do here is inside of our divs, where we said form group, we're going to give each one of these form groups, even this last one, give each one of these form groups another class of column medium 6. Okay, and then this last one I'm going to give it another one called text right. Refresh this page. Alright, and so we have these lined up like this, and then the only thing that's kind of weird is these are setting up higher than this. So I'm just going to do something that everybody considers kind of a no-no. We're just going to do some inline style here. So if you're way against this, hey, don't leave me a comment about it, tell me how stupid I am. Just add it to your CSS file if you want. I'm just going to do it here because, you know what, it's late, I'm tired, and I don't really think it's that bad to do in this situation. I'm going to set that to 25 pixels from the top. refresh. Now these are pushed down equal with the bottom of this, I think. So you can inspect the element and figure out the math, and but to me, I think just push these down 25 pixels. Looks fine. Alright, so we have our form here now. If I cancel, we'll go back. Alright, so let's get to the business of validating this form, and then after we're done validating, we will go ahead and insert the user. So I need to add errors to an empty array here so that we can set up our errors. Alright, so right now we'll start validating this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if post. Okay, so if post has happened, then we're going to jump in and start validating the form. Alright, so first thing we're going to check for is if every one of the fields are filled out, because we want values on all of them. So this is going to be another if statement. Oops. Okay. And really, we can set required equal to an array. Okay. And in here, we're going to put each one of our required fields. So name is a required field, email, password, confirm, and permissions. So those are all our field names, and those came from right here, these name. Okay, so then what we can do is we can like loop through these. So we can say get rid of this if statement, and we'll do a for each loop, and then inside of that we'll do an if statement. So what we're going to do is say for each required as we'll just say F for field. Okay, for each required is F, then we're going to say if so if dollar, well, we'll say if empty dollar underscore post, and inside of that what we're going to do is pass F in. Okay, if that's empty, then we're going to add to the errors array. So we're going to say errors equal you must fill out all fields. Okay, and then what we'll do there is we'll do a break if that happens, because we don't need to print this out. If they don't do any, we don't need to print this out 5 times. So let's go ahead and take a look at that now. Or actually, that won't do anything yet. We actually have to display these. So right here before where we close this if statement, we're going to say if not empty errors, then we're going to echo display errors, then we'll pass it in our errors array. Okay, else we will add user to database. Okay, so now I'm just going to hit submit here, and it says you must fill out all fields. Now I do have 5 empty fields, but it didn't loop through those and do it 5 times. It simply it broke out of that loop once it hit the first one. Alright, so that takes care of making of our required fields. Next, what we want to do is we want to check if the password is more than 6 characters. So that's an easy check as well. We're just going to say if password is less than 6, and that don't really make sense, so we need to add if string length. Okay, if the string length of password is less than 6, okay, that'll count this amount of characters in there. If that's less than 6, then we're going to say errors your password must be at least 6 characters. Okay, so let's check that one out. I'm just going to do 3 characters, and it says you must fill out all the fields and your password must be at least 6 characters. Alright, so now let's check if the password and the confirm match. So we're going to say if, we're going to say password does not equal confirm. We'll just add to the errors array, and we're going to say your passwords do not match. Okay. So again, let's try this. Okay. So it's not 6 characters, so we still got that. I didn't fill out all the fields, and my passwords do not match. Okay. The other thing we want to do is we want to validate this email in 2 different ways. First way we want to do is we want to say if not filter var okay, then what? Okay, so we're gonna check email here, and for the first parameter, and second parameter we're gonna say so it's filter underscore validate underscore email. Okay, and then if that does not validate, then we're gonna add to the errors array. We're going to say you must enter a valid email. Okay. So I do have a problem in the way that I haven't oh wait, weird. So let's try it. Let's put in a crappy email here. So let's say email. That's all we're gonna do. Add. Because we have this type set to email, it's giving us this little front end validation. We're gonna leave that, but make sure you're not only doing that. So down here for email, let's just take type, and we're gonna turn it to text temporarily, just to test our check. Okay. If I just type email here without anything else, that's not going to validate. So then it says you must enter a valid email. Typos. So 32 password. I don't know how that happened. And on line 40, I didn't spell email correctly. Let's try that again. Okay. Alright, so now you must enter a valid email, your password must be at least 6 characters, and you must fill out all fields. The next one that I want to check is we want to make sure that this email that they're entering doesn't already exist in the database. So what I need to do is right here under $_post, let's see, let's get rid of this if here. And I want to put this at the top because if this already exists, I mean, let's just run this up here before the even required. I mean, it's fine, it won't matter. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say, we'll say, be a little more specific, we'll say email query equals DB query. Okay, and we're going to say select all from users where email equals email. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we'll do email count equal, and then MySQLi num rows, and we'll pass that email query in. Okay, so now we have this email count and we want that to equal 0. So what we can do is we can say if email count does not equal 0, and I realize I have my stuff screwed up here. It's supposed to be an opening paren there. Alright, then what do we want to do? Well, we're just going to say add to the errors array. I'm going to say that email already exists in our database. Okay. Let's refresh here. So right here in the email, I'm just going to try to put in my email because I know it's in there. Okay. Add user, and you see that that email already exists in our database. I add a period there just to be consistent with the rest of the, and 6 characters. Alright. Now I'm going to try curse at freeskills.co, and you see that that goes away, so it validates. So let's try to fill out all of this now and see if we can validate it. Testerson. We'll do test at freeskills.com. We'll give them a password of password. Okay, and then permissions, we'll make them editor, hit add new, and it says you must fill out all fields. So we have something wrong here. Let's go look at our form. Alright, let's look at our loop actually first. So on the select here, we didn't actually give it a name, so we need to give it a name of permissions. Okay, that'll take care of that. So now if I select one of these and hit add user, try one more time. Alright, so now we didn't get any error messages and all of this is filled out. So at that point we could go ahead and add the user to the database. So look, now what we need to do that, it's really simple, is right here in this else statement, if empty errors, then we can add user to the database. So all we need to do for that is db query. Okay, so we're going to run a query, and then we're going to set a session, success flash. We'll just go ahead and say user has been added. Oops. Okay, and then we'll do a header. Oh my gosh. So annoying. Header, and then we'll do location users.php. Okay, and for the query, all we need to say is insert into users, and then we're going to give it full name, that's what we called it in our database, comma email, comma password, comma permissions. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and then we're going to do is say values, and then in single quotes we're going to say name for the full name, so we called it up above, email, and then we're going to say hashed, which we haven't created yet, and then dang it, and then we're going to say permissions. Okay, so that's that. So now we just need to create this hashed variable. We really only need to do that if we're going to insert in the database. So we don't need to do that up above. We're going to do it right here. We're going to say hashed equals password underscore hash. Okay, and then we're going to give that, we're going to pass that our password for the first parameter. For the second parameter, we're just going to say password default. Okay, so just those 4 lines right there. We'll add our user to the database, create a session for our success flash message, and then redirect the page. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit add user now, and that should all happen. Alright, so nope. User has been added, and we can see here that indeed this user has been here. Now, do notice one thing, this date right here. This date happens because if you look in the database, and I just refresh, which by the way, I just want to point out that both of these passwords are the same, but they're different in the database, which is what we want. But this join date, see how it's all zeros? So we just need to add a check there, and that's just going to, down here in our table for last login, we're going to add a ternary operator here. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to say if user last login, okay, if the user's last login is equal to, and then it was 0.000, let's look at that database again. Okay, dash 00 space 00 colon 00. If that's equal to that, then what we want to do is we want to print out never, for never logged in. Else, we're going to print out our pretty date right here. Okay, so I'm going to grab all that and just paste it right in there. So let's take a look at that now. So now it says never right there. So this one shows the date because I've actually logged in. So let's try this out. Let's log out and log back in as Test Testerson. Okay, so now if I just replace Curtis here with test at free skills, and then I'll put in my password. Hit log in. Now you see I logged in. It says hello test, and I don't have access to our users table because well, we are just an editor, we're not an admin user. So if I log back out now, log back in as Curtis, I can see my users here. So here's our users in our database, and I'm going to give you guys a little bit of homework. If you want to, you can go forward and try editing the users if you would like. I'm not going to, in my application, I'm not going to get to go ahead and do that, even though I do recommend that you do if you're going to use this, because we don't want to have to delete this user just to change the name. So go ahead and create the update portion of this if you'd like. We've already done that with products and categories and brands. It'll be just like that with updating. See if you can do that. It's some homework before I get the next videos up. And also I have one more homework assignment for you. I'd like for you guys to go back now and start reading the code. Just read through each line of code and see if you can figure out what everything does. That will go a long way. You need to be able to not just copy code from somebody, but you need to be able to read it and understand what it's doing. A good place would be to start as like this helpers file. Try to read through what these functions do and see if you can understand what's going on. And if you get to like some of these functions, like HTML entities, you can look that up in php.net because that's one of their functions. These other ones we created, and see what they do. This date, look up that. So just go through the code and read it and see if you can make sense of what the code's doing. Because once you start being able to make sense of what the code itself is doing, and you haven't just watched me explain it or type it, you go back and look at it again, you really start learning, and then the ability to add the update feature of the users will reinforce that, some of the, give you some repetition and just help reinforce what we've already learned in this series so far, and help you just become a programmer. I mean, you got to step out at some point and start programming some stuff on your own. Now, hopefully you guys have also done this archived product table, where if you delete some of your products, you can see them in the archived products, and then you can of course add them, unarchive them so that they're back in your products. So anyways, this completes the user permissions and the user registration portion, and I'm just gonna go ahead and move on in the next video. So hope you guys have enjoyed this. Sorry I'm tired. If you have enjoyed it, even though it's been boring, you can comment, you can like, you can subscribe, and you can also share this with someone that you think might find it useful. So until the next video, guys, I hope you have a good time and keep coding, make mistakes, break things, and fix it. Alright, see you guys in the next video.